sometimes we as advocates get a little too involved with our client's case, and we are not able to take a step back and objectively see whether what our client is doing is the right thing or not. Of course, irrespective of whether the client is doing right or wrong, unless we are Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, we are going to support our client. However, when the client does not succeed, at least we can allow ourselves to not take it personally when the client is also in the wrong. This thing I was talking about recently with a friend of mine who's also an advocate. And this was a very, whenever I call him up, we have an hour-long conversation about our cases. It happens once every few days. Now, in this particular conversation, I was first ranting about my particular situation in which I felt that a particular person was, falsely implicated and was suffering the brunt of the of the criminal justice system. But my friend then pointed out that if I look at it from another angle, because the case is ongoing right now, I don't really want to get into details, but the friend told me that if you really want to look at it from this other angle, you will see that yes, indeed, there is, you could say that the client does indeed deserve to maybe go to jail for a couple of weeks, a couple of months at the very least, suffer that incarceration, because there might not be a conviction possible at a later stage. But if you, feel his pain to such an extent and you get involved with him and his family's case to such an extent that you start getting sleepless nights, as I still am, you are not really being prudent about the whole situation. I kind of agreed. And then we got talking about one of his cases that he was going through, and he was lamenting the situation that his client was going through. And I had to talk about the same situation, and I had to give him his own medicine, and I had to explain to him that you are doing exactly what I am doing in this particular situation. You know that your client does not really deserve what your client is asking for. Despite that, because you are the client's advocate, you are fighting tooth and nail to get that client that thing which is something that no court of law would prudently grant. And yet when you do not get it, you feel upset. How much of a difference is there left then between you and me and both our failings? This is something that almost every advocate suffers, because advocacy, the skill that it is, you have to fight for your client. Of course, the reference that I gave of Gandhiji was because of the fact that Gandhiji made it very, very clear during his practice days in South Africa that he will not represent any guilty client or any client who actually had committed something that he was accused of, or even that if this person was not dealing fairly, I would not represent him. He was actually able to build a brand for himself, because then judges would very keenly, very intently hear him out, because they knew that if his client had the slightest bit of mud on his hands, he will not represent this person. Having said that, practically, I feel it's not possible in this country anymore. But at the very least, as advocates, we can allow ourselves to not punish ourselves if this particular client who does not really deserve justice, you're not able to secure justice for him. The problem with this, though, is that there are some advocates, and maybe it's all advocates with some passage of time. I'm still a little young. I still have a little bit of hot blood in me. I do get involved very, very personally, very emotionally with every client's case. Even if I were to in the future be able to distance myself at least from the undeserving client's case, yet I feel there will be a much more longer amount of time and introspection which will be needed to be able to distance myself from even a deserving client's fate if I am not able to secure justice for him. There are lawyers who have very famous lawyers who say that they don't really care about the outcome of their cases. They just put in their best, and once the matter is over, irrespective of the outcome, they don't think about it at all. Me, on the other hand, if it's a victory, you always think about oh, what a suave, great, good lawyer you are. But if you fail, at the same time, you also look at how terrible a lawyer you are. You keep thinking about what you could have done better to get a different outcome for the next couple of weeks, and you keep beating yourself up over it. This, I think, would also kind of take me into the realm of talking about stoicism, which is the avoidance of pain as well as pleasure from affecting you in any way whatsoever. Well, it's very easy to preach it, very difficult to actually imbibe it. Even if you have success, you can't allow yourself to celebrate it, so that when you do have failures as well, you allow yourself to not feel the pain of those failures. Something that no one really talks about, except maybe when you are, sitting across each other, or maybe it's a group of 3 or 4 people. But any advocate who's watching this, any law student who's watching this, you will come across this situation. You will feel it. You will feel that you are all alone and you don't really know who to talk about it. Just remember that every single lawyer out there who is practicing law, just like you, is going through almost the same emotions about the joy of winning a case, and then the apprehension at the same time about the fear of the pain that will come in the near future when you also lose a case. If you have any comments about how you deal with successes and losses in your litigation or in life in general, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below as well. Thank you for watching.